Today is the 6th of November, Wednesday, 2024, and we're still in Radhakund, and it's still Kartik, and it's the 21st day of our Kartik Prikrama. And as my Gurudev would regularly say, we are so fortunate that no inauspicious accident or anything like that has happened to us. He would always be expressing his gratitude for Krishna protecting the Parikrama party and not having, because there have been times when there was big difficulties. So my Gurudev would always express his gratitude. So we are happy that everything is going very smoothly. Today is the Avirbhava, the appearance day of Sripad Bhakti Sirupa Siddhāntī Goswami Maharaja. So we'll say a few words about him, but principally today we'll be discussing the fifth verse of our Damdarastakam. So we'll chant our mantra and then we'll continue. Namamishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundaram Mukhe Brahmanam Yasodahiyoluka Ladhavamanam Param Rusam Adyantato Rudantamuhurnetra yurvam vrijantam Karam bhojayurmena sadhanetram Mursvasakam patrirekhantakam cha Stitadevadamadaram Svalilani Ananda Kunde Svavoshami Majantam Akravayantam Dhare Siddhaneshu Bhakti Sirupavam Puna Prematastam Shatavritivande Varam deva mokshana mokshavadinva Nachanyam virnehan vareshalavira Idam deva purnadha gopalabalam Sadami manasya virastam himanye Idam terutam bhoja ayam janile Vritam kuntalai snitam rakshasarupya Muhustum vitam bimba raktaharam me Manasya vishasavalam shashalavya Namo Deva Damoda Ananta Vishnu Prasida Namo Dukha Jala Primadam Kriva Dristi Vrisyati Dinam Batanu Jahani Shamamana Enjakshudishya Rahmajamadya Mudaiva Yadvat Ayamushticho Bhakti Bhajotitocha Tata Prema Bhakti Swakam Nipriyaksha Namo Shri Namo Radhikaya Tvariya Priyaya Namo Nasalilaya Devaya Judam Namo Radhikaya Tvariya Priyaya Namo Nasalilaya Devaya Judam Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hare, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hare. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radha Damodar Ju Ki Jai, Jai Shri Radha Govinda Ju Ki Jai, Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai, Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Jai Shishi, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimar, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimar, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Sirupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaurkishoras Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Vaishnav Sabhabhoma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudiya Varantacharya ki jai. Jai Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Traya ki jai. Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shibata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Paradasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's ki jai. Arupa Nuga Guru Varga ki jai. Jai Swarab Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parasada ki jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sikahol Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Anta Dvip Mayapur Simanta Dvip Gaudran Dvip Madhya Dvip Kola Dvip Ritu Dvip Jana Dvip Modan Dvip Ruta Dvip Apnika Navadvip Dham ki jai. Badravan Bandiravan Belvan Lohavan Mahavan Madhuvan Talvan Kamudavan Bahulavan Vrindavan Kadiyavan Kamyavan Brajamandal ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopiko Govardhan Dwadasavad Matmika Shri Brajamandal ki jai. Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Ganga Jamuna Devi Maharani ki jai. Shri Vrinda Devi Maharani ki jai. Shrimati Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi Maharani ki jai. Shri Gopishwa Mahadev ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarsham Chakra ki jai. Ketra Mandal ki jai. Sadhava Vignavanasa Karishina Shingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarsham Chakra ki jai. Ketra Mandal ki jai. Charidham ki jai, Chari Sampradaya ki jai, Chari Acharya ki jai, Akara Mataraj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai, Shri Keshavji Gaudiya Mat ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Magina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kathamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Priya Sarupe Dayaka Sarupe Prema Sarupe Sahajaba Rupe Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swavilasa Rupe, Anapita Chirin Chirat Kuranavar Tinokala, Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Savakti Shriyam, Hari Purata Sundarat Tikalamba Sadipita, Siddhārdhare Kandare Sparatu Vasachinandanaha, Yam Prabhajantamana Petyam Apeti Krityam, Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava, Putreti Tammayata Yotravo Vinidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Mayitvam Sharanam Prapana Prinde Namaste Charanarvindam Pajami Radham Aravindanetram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Baradam Tatomanastikatena Kapi Tavai Vasmi Najivami Draivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naivam Shanabhikam. And first of all, offering millions and millions of Dandava pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our dear most beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and unto our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavi Namaha. So today, the divine appearance of Sripad Bhakti Sirupa Siddhāntī Goswami Maharaja. All of these personalities are divine because they're all sent by Srimati Radhika. As we were saying in detail yesterday all the personalities residing in this line. Where are they all coming from? Who are they all? So their identities are coming from Sri Radhika's Kaya Vyuha directly. They're Nitya Siddha Parikas that came to the camp of Srila Bhakti Siddhāntī Saraswati to support him. And Sri Sirupa Siddhāntī Maharaj was certainly one of those prominent personalities. He would be a very, very bold preacher. Sometimes so bold that the audiences would get offended. And Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, he tells one nice pastime that we've posted on the line that you can read for yourselves the what happened after that and that whole leela, so to speak. But Srila Bhakti Siddhāntī Saraswati very much liked that bold mood. He himself, Bhakti Siddhāntī Saraswati, got that boldness from Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he gets this boldness from Srila Bhakti Siddhāntī Saraswati. And my Gurudev and Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, they all get this fearless mood of preaching. Originally it's coming, of course, with Radhika's mood, because it has to be fearlessly presented, this philosophy. These preachers, these teachers, they're going completely against the desires of the material people. All the people in the world want to enjoy matter. But the devotees are advocating, no, go against that, reject that, purify that idea, and come into the divine conception. So you have to be, it's described like, for example, when Krishna leaves the Ras Leela, he's described as walking like an elephant. Elephants can walk upstream against the current, and the current was all the gopis wanting him to remain. But Krishna was so bold and strong, he could walk against all that current. Similarly, these various preachers, they can walk against the current of material desires to distribute the highest wealth of service to Srimati Radhika in the spiritual world. So Bhakti Sirupa Siddhāntī Maharaj, he was awarded by Srila Bhakti Siddhāntī Saraswati this title, Vidya Vigasha, which means one who can speak the truth from Saraswati, or Saraswati will manifest for him on his tongue. So he got this title. So he's a very great preacher, and Srila Bhakti Siddhāntī Saraswati was immensely pleased with his preaching work. So today we're celebrating the Avirbhava, the appearance day of this personality. Every year in our previous times with my Gurudev, we would have the Bhaktivedanta Sridhar Maharaj, who was called Rasananda previously, and this was his direct guru. So he would, my Gurudev would always speak the glories of this personality to satisfy Rasananda or Sridhar Maharaj. And Sridhar Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Sridhar Maharaj would also speak on the glories of his guru. So today we're celebrating the Avirbhava of Shripad Bhakti Sirupa Siddhāntī Maharaj. Ki Jai, Go Premanandi. So now we come to our subject matter, finally, after many days of celebrating these divine personalities, which can only give us increased inspirational enthusiasm, hearing and talking about these divine persons, knowing that they walked amongst the devotees. It must enthuse the hearts to hear directly about their pastimes, etc. Yesterday we discussed the pastimes of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, which are so inspiring for so many devotees around the world to move ahead, to progress in their bhakti, to never become stationary, to never become static, but always be ecstatic, because this ecstasy is the current of divine attraction to Krishna. So we must be moving in that direction. Understand? It must be progressing and not be caught up with trivialities of this material world. in any way. We have to avoid our own local trivialities and perhaps the contentions between the various sanghas at different times, the contentions of the world. This is Kali Yuga. Everything is disturbed. The minds are disturbed. But we want to try to pray to have the mercy to remain above all of this disturbance and just focus on the loving relationship between Radha and Krishna, because that's so extensive. As soon as we start to think of the sweetness and speciality of Sri Radhika, everything changes, isn't it? Everything just moves into another dimension, so to speak. So we want to remain in that place of focus regularly. So by reading this Damodarastakam, it's taking us right into Braj, in the deepest aspect of Braj. What is the deepest aspect of Braj? It's the relationships. It's described, there's three principal Shaktis. There's the Sandini, Sangvit, and Hladini Shaktis. These are all manifesting from Swarup Shakti, Sri Radhika. So the Sandini Shakti is the potency of existence. And in the spiritual world, the Sangvit Shakti is the potency of knowledge. But what knowledge is there in the spiritual world? There's the knowledge of relationships. What is my relationships with the other Brijabasis? What is my relationship with Radha and Krishna? What is my relationship in service, etc.? So this Sangvit Shakti is like, and then what is the Hladini Shakti is the tasting of the sweetness and bliss of those relationships. That's how it's described. So we have these three principal potencies, and the culmination is the Hladini Shakti, which is the bliss potency, which manifests when we realize our relationships. So this little Damodarastakam book is churning the relationships in Vrindavan. This pastime of Dambanda Lila, we went through it at the very beginning when in the second verse, Rudantam Muhur Netra Yugam Rijantam, that when Krishna's rubbing his eyes again and again, then he's bound by his mother, and then he pulls down those two Arjun trees, and the consequence of that was incredible, because Mother Yashoda was feeling responsible for almost, it seemed, her son was about to die by the crashing of these trees, and yet he was okay. And then Nanda Baba was very angry with Mother Yashoda for binding him. So all these feelings that were being expressed by the Brijbasis at that time, it put them into the description in the third verse. Iti driksva lilabhya ananda kunde. This bliss of, this kund of bliss. This is the third verse of the Damodarastakam. These pastimes, Krishna is churning. He's arranging these pastimes, just like Kalyanaga. He allowed the Brijbasis to come and see him bound in the coils of this enormous, we can't conceive of this enormous serpent, this snake. He had 1,000 hoods, 101 prominent hoods, massive, massive body. And he bound little Krishna in the coils of his body. And all the Brijbasis, this was the first demon that the Brijbasis had ever seen Krishna contending with. They'd never seen him fighting with Putana. Putana, just as soon as she started to lose her life, when Krishna was sucking all the life air out of, she manifested her 12-mile high form and just took a couple of steps into Mathura vicinity. So they didn't actually see Krishna do this. They don't actually see Krishna fight with Trinavrata. They didn't actually see Shakatasura. They don't see Bakasura. They don't see Agasura. They don't see Pralambasura. But with Kaliya, they did see him. Why? Because Krishna wanted to again churn their hearts. What were their feelings? Mother Yashoda immediately wanted to enter into that lake. How could she think otherwise? She was fearless about the poison of the lake. But Baladev was there with a brilliant smile on his face, knowing the omniscience of his younger brother, and reassured them all, it's okay, my younger brother will take care of everything. And somehow or other, Baladev managed to pacify them. But they had this churning of the hearts again. And certainly in this Dambanda Lila, right at the very beginning in Gokul, we haven't even come out of Gokul yet. This is all taking place in Gokul, which is actually on the other side of the Jamuna from here. We're all on the western side now. Govardhan is on the western side. And Gokul is on the eastern side. It's right down the bottom of the 5 forests. We have Bhadravan, Bandirvan, Belvan, Lohavan, and Mahavan. And Gokul is in Mahavan, near the extremity of the south end, you can say, or the southeast of Braj. So if we got our geography a little bit there, we can see where we're at. Because a little time after this, all these senior members of the family, they all got together, Upananda, Abhinanda, etc., Nanda Baba's brothers, and decided they would leave Gokul and they would go back to their ancestral homes in Nandagaon and Varshana. Those were their original places, but they had left because Parajanya, who's Krishna's grandfather, he had become intimidated by the Keshi demon, it's described. Keshi demon was roaming around at that time. He didn't just manifest when we hear the pastime of Keshi demon, he has always been around. So because of that intimidation, they left Nandagaon previously and went to Gokul. And of course, Vrishabhanu Maharaj is always with Nanda Baba, and he took his residence in Raval. So this is the pastime places of Krishna and the Brijvasis. But what we're talking about here is the relationships, like I've just described, that Sangvit Shakti means knowledge of the relationships. Knowledge in this world is like Bhautik Gyan, or knowledge of Shastra, etc. But knowledge in the spiritual world is just knowledge of my relationship. And then the realization of that relationship manifests in bliss, which is the Hladini Shakti. Because it's described also in Jayavadhamma in the 14th chapter, how this knowledge appears first in the mental faculty. We hear these truths, these tattvas, and then it glides down slowly into the heart region when we have absolute nishtha and faith in these topics. It comes into the, and then it mixes with the Hladini Shakti, and that's the complete potency of bliss. And that's when the sadhaks become most blissful, when that knowledge has come down into the heart and mixed with that Hladini Shakti. And who is that Hladini Shakti? The embodiment is Sri Radhika, of course. So all of this is relevant, in a sense, to appreciating the speciality of the relationships. So today, we've come to our 5th verse, and in the 5th verse, it's saying specifically, in the 4th verse, Satyabrat Muni was rejecting Navada Bhakti. He was rejecting moksha, he was rejecting Vaikuntha Prem. This was a huge step. When we hear these things, we also should reject these things. This is the point. We should move into a mood of catching the lotus feet of Satyabrat Muni and wanting to follow the moods that he is going through. It began with Dasya, and then it escalated into Sakya, and now we're looking at Vatsalya Bhav. So the sadhak, he also wants to follow this path that's been chalked out, that's been opened out to us so graphically through this path. This pastime is remarkable. It contains everything. And my Gurudev has filled in all the spaces in between, so the sadhak can become very serious about his practices and where he's going. If we don't know where we're going, how are we going to get there? If you go to the airport and you don't have a ticket to your destination, and they say to you, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I just want to go somewhere. Well, where do you want to go? What is your ticket? What is the sadhya? It's the sadhya that has to be fine-tuned. And as soon as you fine-tune the sadhya, then you can move into 4th, 5th, 6th gear. If you haven't got the goal fixed, if it's all just the disturbed mind and the distractions of this Mayic world, but the goal internally hasn't been properly positioned, then you can't really move ahead, because you're always trying to compromise with your material desires rather than focus on the goal and what do I need to do to attain that place. You understand? It's a process. It's a process. It's like a mathematical, scientific process, A, B, C. It moves along like that. Once we enter into these topics, we can see all the Shastras are saying the same thing. All are marking out the same path, particularly the Rasa Shastras. That's when we make another leap from the Atma Tattva, so to speak, into the Rasa Tattva section, as we did with Jaivedharma. Jaivedharma is the most excellent book for graphically delineating, charting, navigating our course, getting our compass on track. So Damodarastakam is really supporting this. So now we've come to this 5th verse, and Satyabhama Muni, he's gone from the goal of wanting to see just the form of Balagopal in his heart. Now it's escalating. He just wants to see the beautiful face, yes, of Balagopal. Not the rest of the body, just the face. So this escalation is prominent in here. Okay, so we were up to page 110, and I just want to reiterate the paragraph before these 3 dots on the page, just to refresh what we did last time. At the beginning of this Astakam, Sri Satyabhama Muni was praying in the mood of Dasya Ras. Now in this verse, his prayers are imbued with the desire to enter the mood of Vatsalya Ras. It's increasing. May that supremely charming lotus face, which is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, manifest within my heart forever. In the same way, every sadhak will initially consider himself to be the servant of Sri Krishna in the general sense. We spoke about this yesterday, right? Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was training us to be servants of Krishna. Emphatically, right? That was his mission, to give them, first of all, God, to purify that impersonal conception that was so prominent in the Western countries, that sunyavad, to purify that, and give them, not just give them God, but give them the personality of Godhead. Had you ever heard that experience, that expression before? The Supreme Personality of Godhead? That never manifested previously. The Supreme Person, my Gurudev used to say it, but it was difficult for him to say that because his English wasn't so fluent. He'd always say, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it has a definite potency to it because he's a person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada gave us that. My Gurudev used to say, your Prabhupada, he's come to give you Krishna, has come to tell you that Krishna is the Supreme. I've come to tell you that he's not. That Sri Radhika is the Supreme. And that is fascinating when we get into Radha Tattva and we start to understand how Sri Radhika controls Krishna. Krishna is Mohini Murti and Radhika is Mohini. Huh? Madan Mohan. And Krishna and Radhika is Madan Mohan, Mohini. She controls Krishna. So this switch of appreciation, we can only get to that place in consciousness by following the direction of Sachinandan Gaurahari, to take our Harinam. A Harinam will open these doors. Just like in our Gayatri mantras, they open the doors in the consciousness to a deeper place of reflection and introspection. That's what the Gayatri mantras facilitate. The Hare Krishna mantra does the same. The Hare Krishna mantra is superior to the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra doesn't cross over the Viraja river, but the Hare Krishna mantra does. So it's superior. So he's praying that this charming face will manifest in his heart for her. In the same way, every sadhak will initially consider himself to be the servant of Krishna in a general sense. So that's the general sense that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada taught us. However, by performing intimate service and by acquiring Sri Bhagavan's mercy, he will gradually progress, and a deep longing to perform service under the guidance of one of Sri Krishna's eternal associates, Anugatya Mai Seva, will begin to manifest within his heart. We'll start to realize that we must have that absolute guidance, that guidance from that Rasik Vaishnava. Otherwise, we will not go to that Rasik place. It's like if you want to study anything, you have to have a teacher who can teach it to you. So similarly, if you want to go into that realm, that divine realm, you have to have someone who is already in that realm to take you in there. It's impossible. Doesn't matter how much you chant, whatever you do, you can do Dandavat Parikramas every single day. You still can't access that divine truth without the mercy of that Rasik Vaishnava. Absolutely impossible. He's going to bestow Krishna's mercy into our hearts. That's what his capability is. So now we come after the three dots here. Just like the omniscient supersoul present in the core of everyone's heart, the Guru has the special characteristic of perfectly knowing our heart. We described yesterday with Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada how he would look into the hearts of all the different devotees and see them, everything about them, totally. And the devotees would recognize that. He knows the eternal constitutional mood of our soul, our eternal relationship with Bhagavan, and accordingly, he connects us with him. This is Guru's. Guru is like, he fills the vacuum. You have Krishna in one sense, in one level, and you have the conditioned jivas in another level, and between the two, there's like a vacuum. And in that vacuum sits Guru to connect the two together, the two worlds. They are totally different worlds. In this world, we believe in ourselves and our own material happiness constantly. It's called the perverted reflection. But in the spiritual world, there's no thought about the false ego. There is no false ego. There's only thought about how can I please and satisfy Krishna. It's a big transition. It starts in this world, the practice of that mentality. And then by Gurudev's mercy, it transitions into the spiritual reality or spiritual consciousness. Accordingly, he connects us with him. Then by supplying the water of hearing, chanting, and remembering, he nourishes that relationship and cuts down anything that obstructs that nourishment with the sharp axe of his words. He does this so expertly that the sadhak barely notices, but all the while the needful is accomplished. The sadhak doesn't even really know what's going on because his consciousness hasn't transitioned yet. But Guru, he's doing it very, very expertly. I have more of these books in my room if somebody wants to run back and get them. They don't have the book. This is what the bona fide Guru and genuine Vaishnavas do. They do not have bodies of flesh and bone. They are which are subject to change and which may die at any moment. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he told his disciples repeatedly, I am eternal. And all the disciples, Jai, Jai. But he meant it. He is eternal. When we talk about him, when we pray about him, he becomes livingly present in our consciousnesses. Or, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what did he say? What is that expression? What is it? Yes, yes, yes. How does it start? He who reasons ill that Vaishnavas die, though living, how have I forgotten that? He reasons ill that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and in living try to spread the holy name around. Yes. Thank you, Nanda. You should sit closer, Nanda. He claims that he's not even a devotee, but actually he's such a devotee. They are the eternal associates of the most merciful incarnation of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's just who we were discussing just now, Sri Sirupa Siddhāntī Maharaj. They're eternal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They've come into this world to support Mahaprabhu's, to support Sri Krishna's teachings, or to support Sri Krishna's desire to taste Radhika's moods. Krishna wants to taste himself. He wants everything. He sees Radhika is enjoying more bliss than me. He wants that. He's very greedy. He wants to be the Ashraya. So he takes that Bal and Kanti himself as Mahaprabhu, who descended to deliver the fallen souls of in this age of Kali. Guru and Vaishnavas are among the intimate companions of the divine couple, Sri Radha and Krishna. The way Sri Bhagavan extends his loving mercy to the souls bound by Maya is by sending associates like these in the form of Vaishnavas. Sri Krishna's lips have been compared to red bimba fruits, bimba rakta adaram. Although ripened bimba fruit is extremely soft and beautiful, in reality it is far excelled by the softness and beauty of Krishna's lips. Still, even though Sri Krishna's lips are so beautiful, he constantly hankers to drink the nectar of the lips of his beloved gopis. Then what must their lips be like? What must the gopis' lips be like? Krishna is hankering to drink the nectar from their lips, even though his lips are so nectarine, but he wants to drink their lips. So how special are the gopis? Then what must their lips be like? The most clear example of how Krishna hankers to drink the nectar of the gopis' lips is found in Brahmara Gita, in the conversation between Srimati Radhika and a bumblebee.
Sakritadhara sudham swam mohinim payayitva sumanasa iva sajjastatyajesman bhavadrak paricharati kadham tatpada padmam tu padma yapibata hrita cheta hyuttama sloka jalpai.
So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-13. Just as you abandon a flower after drinking its honey, Sri Krishna completely bewildered us by making us drink the nectar of his lips only once and then suddenly abandon us. They didn't drink it just only once. They drank it many times, but they had the conception that it was only once. They're accusing Krishna because they're hurt. When Uddhav comes to Uddhav Kyari, this is where this conversation is spoken. When he comes as a messenger from Krishna, the gopis immediately start expressing their unhappiness with Krishna because he's left them. When they gave them absolutely everything, they had given more than their life heirs to Krishna. They had given them every part of their existence, their shyness, their reputation, everything they had given to Krishna, and he left them. So they're not happy. So they are saying strong words to Uddhav in response to his messages to them. Why does goddess Padma, Lakshmi Devi, who herself is just like a lotus flower, serve his lotus feet? They're accusing her that she is actually inferior to them. There's a whole explanation here I'll go into. Who herself is just like a lotus flower, serve his lotus feet. It seems that her mind has certainly been stolen by his cunning words. However, we are not naive like Lakshmi Devi. They're claiming that they are smarter than Lakshmi Devi. They really want to pull Krishna's ears. They're not happy with him. It's going to expand from this. I was reading this today and I was amazed how my Gurudev is weaving this into Damodarastakam. He's weaving this incredible pastime of Brahmara Geet into the Damodarastakam to help us understand deeply the moods of Krishna's relationship with the gopis. This is all connecting with the principle that we've spoken at the beginning about the relationships with the Brijbasis, the relationships in Vrindavan between Krishna and the gopis. Shri Radhika spoke these words to the bumblebee in intense separation from Krishna. "O bumblebee, messenger of Sri Krishna," she said, "your master knew that when he would leave us in the future to go to Mathura and elsewhere, we, the young damsels of Braj, would die from being separated from him." The gopis never leave Uddhav Kyari. They follow the trail of Akrura's chariot with their eyes until there's no dust left, and they remain standing like painted figures in a picture. For 100 years they stay there. 100 years. They never go back to their homes. Those expansions return, but they themselves, the gopis, they remain in that Uddhav Kyari for 100 years. They can't move. This is how much they love Krishna. Krishna arranges this pastime so that we can glorify the extensive love of the gopis. If we can catch this mood that the gopis have for Krishna in their attraction to Krishna, we've captured everything. That is what bhajan means, is to remember the gopis' sweet connection and moods to Krishna. That is what bhajan means. Would die from being separated from. He likes to see us writhing in the pain of separation so much that he forcefully made us drink the nectar of his lips just once. For only a few moments, he knew that death cannot come to anyone who drinks that nectar, and he knew that later, unable to die from the pain of separation, we would simply writhe in agony. Materially, we can't really appreciate so much, because in the material world, separation is something negative, isn't it? When someone goes away, we feel very negative about that. But in the spiritual world, that separation mood, it just increases the desire, because we've said continually, what is the ingredient of Raganuga Bhakti? It's greed, lobha. That is the ingredient, lobha. Krishna is making the gopis even more greedy for his association. When he returns later, after they've sung even Gopi Geet, then Krishna, he comes very humbly, na pariyeham niravadya samyujam, very humbly presenting himself, saying that I cannot repay you even in a lifetime of Lord Brahma. The gopis become pacified, and then they say, then Krishna says to them, I left you to increase your hunger for me, because that's going to increase the rasa. And they're totally satisfied the moment they see Krishna. The moment he comes, they're completely blissful. It's like, for example, when you come into Radha Kund after a long time, and as soon as you see Radha Kund, just, it's miraculous. Immediately, all your little difficulties vanish. Practically everyone has the same experience. As soon as you have darshan at the Kund, boom, all difficulties that might have been there in the mind just disappear. This is direct darshan of Sri Radhika. That's the result. So similarly, when the gopis see Krishna, all of those difficulties that they experience in their separation moods evaporate.
Sri Krishna's eyes.
Sri Krishna's eyes, his eyebrows, his smile, and his lips are the sharp arrows of Cupid. This is what's described in the Kam Bij Gayatri mantra. These Pushpamanaya, these five arrows. Krishna, his smile, his eyes, his forehead, his flute, his whole moon-like face, these are like arrows piercing the heart. Once someone has seen them, he will remain wounded forever. Wounded forever. That's it, finished. Finished, yes. Wounded forever. Once someone, he will remain wounded. Devotees who cultivate Raganuga Bhakti, Bhakti following the wake of the Ragatmika Bhakti, or who are Rupanuga, followers of Sri Rupa Goswami, remember all these moods of Sri Radhika in separation as they perform sadhana, and thus lose all awareness of their bodies, their homes, and so on. So, we are Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga, Rupanuga sadhaks. We are following the external strictures, rules and regulations. But internally, our focus is on Raganuga Bhakti. That's the difference. A pure Vaidhi Bhakti, his internal focus will perhaps be on some type of liberation, perhaps Vaikuntha, even Dwarka. These are different high forms of liberation. But the sadhak who has his focus on following the Ragatmikas, even he's performing, what is Vaidhi? Vaidhi is going to Mangalati. Vaidhi is following Ekadashi. This is Vaidhi Bhakti. So the Raganuga, Rupanugas, they follow all of this. So we are Raganuga, Rupanuga, Vaidhi Bhaktas, or Vaidhi Bhakta, Raganuga, Rupanuga, like that. There's a difference though, between someone who is just a Vaidhi Bhakta and someone who is embraced in their hearts the full vision of what is Raganuga. Because this was the gift of Mahaprabhu. We simply have to desire it. Mahaprabhu, that Supreme Lord, don't think, oh, I don't have the adhikar for this. Never think like that. Mahaprabhu will give you that. It's described that Krishna, if you wanted Krishna Prem, he would say, well, bring your container, your pot, and I will fill it up. But Mahaprabhu says, no, I will give you a pot as well, which means I will give you the adhikar to hold this nectar. This is Mahaprabhu's munificence, his mercy, Audarya. Sri Vrishabhanu Nandini continued to angrily lament to the bumblebee as she burned in the blazing fire of separation.
Yadanucharita lila karna piyusha viprut sakritadana vidhuta dvandva dharma vinashtaha sapadi griha kutumbam dina musrujya dina bahava iha vihanga bhikshucharyam charanti.
So we're still in Brahmaragit, chapter 47, verse 18. O messenger, she's talking to the bumblebee. Descriptions of your master's pastimes are exactly like nectar. If someone accepts even one drop of that nectar through his ears, even once, then his sense of obligation to worldly dualities is utterly ruined. It's finished. Because of that nectar, many people have quit their homes and families, leaving them utterly miserable, only to become miserable themselves, externally. When you leave your home and family, hearth, etc., it can be difficult. There's no family support, etc. You're just alone. That's the nature when you leave all of that. It's not necessarily going to be a fun party or anything like that. You're alone, and you have to introspect at that point. Because of that nectar, many people have quit their homes, leaving them utterly miserable, only to become miserable themselves. They live as mendicant beggars, wandering through these forests of Braj like birds without shelter. We see in Braj, we see many people wandering like this. They've left everything, especially those widows. You see many of those widows in Radhakund, and they've left everything. They're amazing, actually. They've endured because here in Radhakund in particular, it's more hot in summer and it's more cold in winter. It's very hard to live here, actually. And they've just given up everything with their faith in the Supreme Lord. And externally, it can be difficult for them. but internally, how much potency is going to flourish in their hearts. I can remember many years in the height of summer, when it was scorching heat, even in Vrindavan, not even in Radhakund, and so many people would leave, but if those devotees remained, there would be so much nectar, because Krishna appreciates that. Yes, they're staying because they're attracted to my pastime stalis, my pastime places. So Krishna, he's not a piece of wood, he's going to reciprocate. Always he will reciprocate. So, as if Radhika heard the bumblebee ask for an example of this, she said, "We are the unavoidable proof that this is true. There is no need to look for evidence anywhere else. Simply by hearing about his pastimes, we have become homeless." The gopis are sitting in Uddhav Kyari. I just described for 100 years, Krishna leaves them and goes to Dwarka. Does their love diminish even a centimeter? Krishna marries 16,108 queens. He has children, so many children, and grandchildren. Does that diminish their attraction to Krishna? Because they know that Krishna is only going to be really fully satisfied when he's with them. They know that, especially Sri Radhika. This is why Radhika becomes unhappy when Krishna goes with Chandravali. She knows Krishna cannot possibly be as happy with Chandravali as she is with her. She knows she's that Swarup Shakti. She knows how much Krishna loves her. So, in relationship to this pastime, we don't have a lot of time left, but I can begin this explanation to some degree because it's very beautiful to hear. So, in this 47th chapter is when the bumblebee comes, and Uddhav, he's witnessing the power of Radhika's Divyan Mad. This means her demented madness, practically, in love with Krishna. It's like she's gone demented externally. She's chastising this bumblebee. She's imagining that this bumblebee is Krishna himself. Perhaps this bumblebee is Krishna himself, or that bumblebee could be the messenger from Krishna. But in either way, she's talking to the bumblebee as if he's Krishna. And she talks 10 particular verses. And these are incredible. These Chitra Jalpa or Udgunya. And these are all degrees of love, but in a crooked way. Radharani, she's saying, first of all, in verse 12, it's described Prajalpa. There are 10 of them. Prajalpa, Parijalpa, Vijalpa, Ujalpa, Sanjalpa, Avajalpa, Abhijalpa, Ajalpa, Pratijalpa, and Sujalpa. And they're all different degrees of anger with Krishna. The first one, for example, I just read one or two so you can get an idea of them. These are all described in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sa'artha Darshani. If you look at Sa'artha Darshani, Krishnadas Kaviraj, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all of these are described there with the explanation by Srila Rupa Goswami at the end. So this is Rupa Goswami's explanation, for example, of the meaning of Prajalpa, is the first demented talk that she's giving to this bumblebee. It's saying that she puts down the tactlessness. You know this word tactlessness? When someone is not, how would you describe? No English scholars here. Tactless, you know this word, tactless? Means you're not presenting it properly. Tactless, you do something stupid. So she's saying that her lover is tactless. Everything is putting Krishna down, actually. This is her love, which has become hurt. This is what this Brahmara Gita is about. And it's the highest conception of love when you get into it. tactlessness of one's lover with expressions of disrespect. She's showing Krishna so much disrespect here. She say, it is spoken in a mood of envy, jealousy, and pride. Radharani is Uddhav is amazed. He's never heard anyone speak like this about Krishna. He's only heard Krishna being glorified by the Dwarka. He's never heard Krishna being, practically we would say, blasphemed by the gopis. So these are escalations of anger by Sri Radhika. And the next one, for example, shows through, it's called Parijalpa, shows through various devices that one's own cleverness, by expressing his merciless duplicity, fickleness, ungratefulness. They're showing their own superiority of cleverness. Radharani is saying, I am more sensitive to this loving mood than you are. And she's saying how merciless Krishna is. And there's 10 of them. And they highlight at the 5th. They go through a progression. And they come to the 5th one, which is Sanjalpa. And then speech that decries with deep irony and insulting behavior of the beloved as ingratitude and complete lack of love. She's saying Krishna is completely ungrateful and has no love at all. That's what she's saying. This is called Sanjalpa. So that's like it's come to that. Now from the next 5, she starts to soften her mood of anger at Krishna. And the final one, out of honest sincerity, her lover inquires about Krishna with gravity, humility, unsteadiness, and unique eagerness. It's like a whole pastime. This Brahmara Gita, just these expressions themselves, there's 10 of them. You should all read them. They're most, enlivening. It takes us into another consciousness of what are the moods of the gopis, what are the moods of Sri Radhika. She's hurt, like I said, because Krishna's gone away. Not only gone away, but they're convinced that he's enjoying with all the Mathuravasis, all the ladies in Mathura. All of these emotions are mixed with her feelings. So it's an extraordinary revelation of Sri Radhika's heart. It's practically the highest expression of love of her heart, but it's twisting. It's like not saying, oh, I love you or anything like. It's going the opposite way. Why have you been so unkind to us and gone away? It needs to be properly studied and meditated upon. But this last one, Sujalpa, is when she comes out of this direct anger and starts to have a more humble mood towards the bumblebee. But you can read this for yourself. In the 46th chapter, Uddhav comes to Braj. But in the 47th chapter, he goes to Uddhavkeri and he visits the gopis there. My Gurudev once described how Uddhav, he comes to Nandagaon, stays with Nanda Baba for the night. In the morning, he goes to wash his face in one kund called Krishna Kund. And he looks up and he sees the whole forest of huge kadamba trees stretching out. This is 5,000 years ago. These trees were massive. And he sees right deep into the forest, and he sees there's illumination in the forest. There's a light there. And he realizes, oh, this is the gopis. The gopis are there. Then he goes to see them. And this whole extraordinary conversation between Radhika and the bumblebee take place, which is, it's a whole, like, couple of classes by itself, but you can go into it, and I hope there's some inspiration there. But my Gurudev is referencing this in Damodarastakam. He's pulling us into this place from we're talking about Krishna being bound by Mother Yashoda, and yet my Gurudev has included the extremity of love that Radhika has for Krishna, because it's all about these loving moods, these moods of affection. This is what rasa is really about. So, we'll do one more verse. What becomes of such a miserable, homeless person? In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.240 it is described.
Evam vratasva priyanama kirtya jatanurago drutachitta uchchaihi asatyado rodati rautigaya chunmadavan rucchati lokabhyaha.
Saintly people who have firmly devoted themselves to serving Sri Bhagavan with deep love, constantly engage in kirtan of the names of Lord Krishna, of Sri Krishna, they most love. With deep attachment, when deep attachment, anurag, arises in them, their hearts thoroughly melt and they become mad in love of God. They laugh and cry loudly. Agitated by love, they sing about their Lord in sweet voices, and just like madmen, without a trace of shyness, they dance and sing, unaffected by the opinions of ordinary people. Doesn't this remind you of the Sankirtan movement? When we go down the streets, we're singing and dancing, smiling, happy, chanting. It's like, generally people don't just dance and sing in the streets, but the Hare Krishnas do, unabashed, not afraid, not shy. We do like that. So we are also, showing that mood of fearlessness to society, because society has nothing of value. What is the value unless it's focusing on glorification of Krishna and Radha and the holy places? It has no value. No value at all. It's designed to captivate the weak mind, to try and exploit the material energy. It's all designed that way. Maya Devi, the illusory world. We have to be awake to that. So I won't go on now. I'll stop here. But it just becomes more and more beautiful. But I would encourage you all to please examine this Brahma. Do we have all these typed out already? You can do this tomorrow then. You can type out these 10 jalpas and we can post it for you. And you can follow it through carefully. It's a very special meditation. It's a very high meditation, but why not? We're in Radhakund, it's Kartik. We're allowed. So it's okay, we have no prohibition today. So thank you all. Shri Damodarastakam ki jai. Brahmara Geet ki jai. Shrimati Radharani ki jai. Shri Krishna ki jai. Krishna's the culprit. We're not happy with Krishna today, but we're happy with Radhika. We're seeing Radhika's separation mood. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vevacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavena Namo Namaha.